195 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise. We're back, and we're looking a little bit dull. So I don't know whether I just need to do a little bit of adjustment with the white balance and the color thing. How is that looking? I suppose the technology will all need resetting now because it's been over a month since we've done one of these videos. And I need to make sure, as per usual, that everything is all right on the tablet. I don't particularly need to see adverts. Who gets the first comment? EcoJock saying, yes, Michael G finally made one. Yeah, you're very, very welcome. Philip says, hello from USA. This will be a good one, I'm sure. Welcome back. Thank you very much. It is great to be back. I think I'm kind of back. I don't know if I'm fully back. Oh, midnight in Indonesia. Actually, I did think about you, Fahmi, and I thought this time is kind of pushing it for the eastern part of the world. But thanks very much for tuning in. Ilya says, hey, from Athens, Yasu. Skip ads so that I can see if everything is coming through well. Eam says, hello from London, nice to be back. Thank you to all of you for tuning in. And yes, everything seems to be okay there with the mic. How have you all been? As I say, it's been more than a month since I've done one of these videos, and for people watching the recording as opposed to the live session, it's not going to mean anything, but never mind. I'm kind of coming out of summer hibernation. I think we can say that I am just about coming out of my summer hibernation. It may take a little while before I get into the sort of regular flow of the videos, but that's why I wanted to come back with a bit of a bang and do an hour-long video, a top 10, a best of. But for the benefit of those who may be tuning in for the first time, I'm Persolaise, an award-winning perfume critic and author of this little book here, which is now out of print, Le Snob Perfume. And on this channel, I review perfumes. Actually, usually the thing that I do is that I open perfumes live in front of you and share my first impressions, which is why the series is called Love at First Scent. So what we're doing today is a little bit unusual, presenting best ofs, but I thought it was time we did one of these. And if there was one request for a best of that seemed to come up more than any of the others, it was for a best of this. This was freshly plucked a few minutes ago from the Persolaise garden. Beautiful iris. I was very, very pleased because it was the first time I actually managed to make the iris bulbs grow. I'm not very skilled when it comes to gardening. I tend to be better at killing things or maybe not letting them come to life at all, but we've got a beautiful cluster of irises. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already done so. Make sure you click on the little bell to get notifications of new videos, and do consider supporting my work on Ko-fi. You will find details of all of that in the video description below, but not yet because you need to give me a little bit of time after the live broadcast to actually stick a video description on. Gosh, lots of comments already, and I don't want to be rude and ignore them, but I'm not going to be able to read every single one. Eve Spider Smell says hi from California. Absolutely love the note of iris, says V Rose. It makes me feel like a regal gentleman. Yes, absolutely. Completely agree with you. Hello, wowzer, excited here, says Hamlet Wong. Hello from Houston as ever, says Eric. Hi from Manchester, says Andre. Your shirt cheers me up, says Elia. Good, that was the idea. Looking forward to this one. I adore Iris, says Olfactophiles. And hello from Susan, says Ibrahim El Sayed. Well, say hello to Susan as well, but I'm guessing maybe you mean Sudan? I don't know, but maybe you mean Susan. Hello from Norway, says Nazik. Iris is my favorite note. Now, I am pretty confident that most of you out there are going to have favorite iris perfumes. So as I present my top 10, I'd be very interested to find out what some of your favorite irises are. Some of the ones that I've got for you are the obvious ones, but maybe some of the other ones as we go through the list are going to be a little bit less obvious. So do keep the comments and the questions coming, regardless of whether you're watching live or the recording. If you're watching the recording, please feel free to leave a comment. And Ibrahim says, meant Sudan. I did think you meant Sudan. Welcome anyway, and say hi to Susan. Angel's Dust by Francesca Bianchi says, la 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 la. Okay, that is a good one actually, but it's not on this list. We should get going because we're almost at the 5-minute mark. So top 10 best iris perfumes. I'm going to start by cheating because I'm actually going to do a kind of +1, and this is the +1 because I actually sort of want to get this out of the way. This is, I don't have the proper bottle of this. I've still only just got my little sample vial here, which is kind of needing a little bit of attention. This is the Iris de Fath, or Iris de Fath. I still don't know how you're meant to pronounce that surname in French. I'm not going to dwell on it now because I did a separate video on this a little while ago, so I will try to link to it in the video description below. But there are some very, very good reports online about how this scent came about, so do search for them. But essentially, the founder of the Panouge brand, that I talked about on the blog a little while ago, wanted to revive the original Iris Gris. You know, one thing I thought, with so many Iris perfumes having French names, is really, this episode is really going to test my ability to do that whole Iris, which I can't do very well, so we'll just say Iris Gris. They wanted to revive Iris Gris, and they put it out to tender as a kind of competition, and Patrice Révillard of Maelstrom won the competition, and the resulting perfume was the Iris de Fath. Why is it a +1? It's a +1, I think, because it probably does stand significantly above all of the other ones as the best Iris perfume available at the moment. I mean, obviously, feel free to disagree. But also it's a +1 because it's in very, very, very limited distribution, and it is shockingly expensive. Last time I checked, a bottle of this stuff is still well over €1,000. I do wish that they would make a smaller size available, maybe in a less expensive bottle. So this is the one that if you are able to try, if you're able to get a few drops of it, I would absolutely encourage you to do so, because it is just jaw-droppingly beautiful. It is one of those holy grail perfumes that you only really smell once in a lifetime. But yeah, as I say, if I hadn't very, very kindly been sent this sample by the brand, I don't think I would have smelt it until now, because I've never spent anywhere near that amount of money on a bottle of perfume. There's no way I would be able to justify spending over €1,000 on a bottle of perfume. But there you go, that's the +1. So let's get on with the top 10. And I think yeah, V Rose here saying, as much as I love niche perfumes, I'll never love niche pricing. It's not just the niche that charge those sorts of crazy prices, though. We've got some recommendations coming here. Iris Rebelle by Atelier Cologne is a great fresh iris, says Connor Richards. Donka, a sleeper iris, says Eric. Ah, see, I had never thought of that, but you're right, actually. It's a sort of bearded iris, isn't it? Which is actually, funnily enough, one of the irises that's used for in obtaining orris butter. Gabriel says, your French pronunciation is just fine. Thank you very much. And as far as Jacques Fath is concerned, even a Frenchman wouldn't know. Ah, interesting. I would say fat, as in I am fat for eating too much good stuff. Yeah, because in French you don't have the th at all, do you? I like Iris fragrances, says John F., but if I wear the same one too often, all I pick up on is the powder. Is L'Eau d'Hiver considered an iris, says Lalois? It may well be, because L'Eau d'Hiver is inspired by Apres L'Ondee, but it's not on today's list, much as I adore it. We need to get on. Let's do the most obvious one. This is, you know what's coming. This is from 1971, excuse me, from Chanel, the perennially loved and still absolutely amazing classic, number 19, composed by Henri Robert. And regular viewers will know this particular box, this particular presentation of 19 has come out a few times on Love at First Scent, so regular viewers will be aware that I was very fortunate to find this at a flea market in Japan, of all places. I'm pretty sure this one was in Tokyo, and I'm doing okay with it. This is the extrait, okay? So the EDT and the extrait are from the 70s. The EDP, which is also absolutely fine. I really like the EDP, is 80s work. Let's get going. Let's spray. Now, what is it that we love about Iris? Try and put it into words, some of you out there. Somebody already has said that it makes them smell like a... Come on, doesn't it click? I thought this clicked. Okay, there's a click. Wouldn't be a Persolaise video without getting sidetracked, says V Rose. Do you know the number of negative comments I get about that sort of thing? I mean, negative comments are fine as long as they don't get personal, okay? Negative comments are as important as positive comments. But clearly Persolaise viewers can be divided into two very different halves. The ones who like all of the sidetrack going off on tangents, talking about trips and travel and Tokyo and flea markets and then coming back to the main topic, and the other people who really, really, really don't like that sort of thing, and they probably then actually don't watch very more. But it's interesting the number of the number of negative comments about. Well, I had one the other day that says something like you talk too much. I thought, well, okay, I'll just do a video that's got me spraying the perfumes. Eco Jock is on Team Sidetrack. Thank you very much. So is Olfactophiles. A tangent about tangents. Yes, how meta is that? We need to get very meta for the first perfume. Okay, number 19. It's difficult to find something new to say about perfumes like number 19 because I find the words that keep rushing to the front of my mouth are the usual thing of, you know, oh, people say this is too informal, sorry, this is too cold and too austere, but I just find it I find it formal rather than cold, and I think there's a place in formality. I seem to have said these sorts of things before. So I guess maybe in the interests of saying something different, although I've probably said this as well, that's a very kind comment. I don't know how you say your tag name, la 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 la. Anyway, very kind, thank you. One thing that I suppose isn't said enough about number 19 is about the importance of the vetiver in it. It's fairly warm in this room today. It's been quite a hot day here in the south of England today, and temperature obviously has a very, very serious effect on how a perfume develops. And the initial blast that I'm getting from this now obviously is the greenness of the galbanum, the sharpness of the iris. It's coming across as less powdery today, but it seems to have gone straight into the vetiver. And we don't talk about vetiver in relation to number 19 often enough, I don't think. I know on some people's skins, it's the vetiver that comes out front and center really, really quickly. And of course, vetiver has a rootiness to it, a very, very strong rooty component. And I guess that's what ties in very well with the iris in here. But yeah, absolute classic. You knew this was going to be on this list. If you can get the extrait, do, because I still think that it's probably the best of the versions out there, although both the EDT and the EDP are really great in my opinion. And I know we don't, or I don't like to talk about gender issues. Jeremy, I'm just going to ignore that comment, okay? I know we don't talk about gender issues here, but number 19, even though it was always marketed as a female perfume, I think works very, very interestingly on men, probably because of that prominent vetiver note. Now, I'm going to ask a question, and it's probably a stupid question to ask because as soon as I ask it, I know what the answer is going to be. Do you want me to do a blotter update? Iris are more girdle droppers, in my opinion. Do not go down this route, okay? I find Iris romantic, says Ilya. It also gives a chic factor to many compositions. Yes, it can be. I think it's romantic in a sad way, and we'll get onto that. So there's a clue about something that's coming up next. I was going to say, would you like me to do blotter updates on these? Again, for those not in the know, because we shouldn't really come to conclusions about perfumes based on an initial sniff, a few hours after the broadcast, I go back into the item description. I go back into the video description. You can tell haven't done this for very long. And I talk about how the perfumes have developed on the blotter. And obviously you would like me to do that. So, okay, I will do my best to do blotter updates, although 10 blotter updates is going to be quite a bit. Yeah, this is interesting. It's feeling it. Smelling all of these is going to be interesting today because of the temperature in this room. I think we should do another obvious one. Maybe get the obvious ones out of the way, actually. Nancy says, hi Persolaise, thanks for this. I love Iris. Panthea Iris from Stefan Humbert Lucas is a favorite this spring. Iris is classic like a silk blouse. I don't know that one from Stefan. Okay, somebody said it. Ali said it. Let's do Iris Silver Mist, okay? This is in the Vapeur Tout Noir. Iris Silver Mist, as far as I'm aware, is still only available in the bell jar, and I think this presentation has been discontinued, but I could be wrong. Well used by Persolaise there, you see. So Iris Silver Mist from 1994, composed by Maurice Roussel. Oh, the brand is Serge Lutens, by the way, for those of you who don't know. Certainly considered to be one of the best modern irises. I was going to say of the 21st century, but of course it's not. It's late 20th century. And the story famously goes that Serge Lutens himself wanted an iris that would out-iris all others, iris to the max. And so apparently Maurice Roussel pretty much took every single ingredient that in some way, shape or form had an iris descriptor attached to it, and then created this. I like to wear Iris Silver Mist in the summer, says Eric. A white pressed button down, so chic, I wear it to the beach almost without fail. Gosh, what's it like on the beach? Now, Iris Silver Mist is one of my absolute all-time favorites. And if you're talking iris purism, it's probably better than number 19, because number 19, of course, has lots of other elements to it. It is quite rightly famous also for the greenness of the galbanum note, whereas Iris Silver Mist is iris, 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 and so you get that chalkiness. And I don't know about you, but I think that's one of the things that just makes me fall head over heels in love with iris every single time I smell a good iris perfume, because there's something about the chalk. I love dryness in perfume composition anyway. I don't think there is enough dryness out there, but that combination of the chalkiness with the intrinsic violet-like quality of iris, which starts taking it into sweet territory, is just so irresistible. And you know how if you, not that this is in any way, shape or form gourmand, but you know how if you sprinkle something with icing sugar, so maybe nutty biscuits sprinkled with icing sugar, so that you get that contrast between, I don't know, like the almond, if they're almond biscuits, you get that dry chalkiness of the almond contrasted with the powdery sweetness of the icing sugar. And it's got to be icing sugar, because there's something about that texture as well that creates a completely different effect from, say, caster sugar. That seems to be the character of iris. And so in Iris Silver Mist, you get the sweetness, you get the chalky quality, you get the whiteness, chalkiness, whiteness. You know, I'm picturing sort of like, you know, white cliffs of Dover. Can you imagine if like the white cliffs of Dover wafted the smell of iris every single time you went past them? Wouldn't that be a fun? I'd love to get on a ferry and see the white cliffs of Dover recede into the distance. But anyway, and it's definitely got a rose inflection to it. It's definitely got a kind of vanillic feel to it. But I think it is that chalkiness, that dustiness, that gives it a sense of classicism, a sense of the old world coming to life. You know, like if there was a smell of a time machine, or the smell of the experience of going into the past, I think it would have to be iris. And Iris Silver Mist encompasses that beautifully. Now, you seem to be saying quite a lot about this one. Flodel Fidflad says, Iris grew on me a lot during recent times. My favorite is Masca Milano's Lattesa. Fine. Iris Silver Mist was one of my first from Lutens, and I didn't get it at the time, says Taffy. How about now, though? Do you like it more now? Ashfaq says, incidentally, I'm wearing Iris Soir from Sultan Pasha, his ode to the famed Iris Gris. Love Iris Silver Mist. I haven't tried that one from Sultan Pasha. First time catching live, says DJ. You're very, very welcome. Olfactophile says, that's a good comparison. Oh, I'm glad. I forget which one. Probably, maybe the biscuits with the icing sugar. Is it like Pentacord White by Tower? Oh, gosh, I don't remember the Pentaccords were simpler. They were a lot more streamlined from memory. This is quite grand. You know the description in the Luca Turin Tania Sanchez book. I forget whether the review of Iris Silver Mist was actually written by Turin or Sanchez. I think it was Luca Turin, talking about a funeral cortege. It's definitely got that feel to it, but it's a funeral for somebody who was very much loved, and I think that's where that tragic romanticism comes into the impression that's created by Iris. Gavin says, I find Iris Silver Mist hilarious. I think Maurice Roussel has a great sense of humor in a lot of his perfumes. You've got to explain that one. Right. Whoops. Label the blotter. So I'm just going to write ISM, and we need to move on because we've only done 2 and we're at the 20-minute mark. There's 8 to go. Let's do another obvious one. This one, because it was released in 2000, I suppose it does count as a 21st century iris, and again considered to be one of the finest irises of the 21st century. You know what's coming. It is Iris Poudre, Iris Poudre from Frederic Malle, composed by the legendary Pierre Bourdon. Beautiful. Again, the trouble with doing these top ones is that you run out of superlatives, because obviously I've chosen my favorites, and I just keep trying to think of different ways of saying, yeah, I love it, it's brilliant, yeah, it's amazing, it's fantastic. But so different from Iris Silver Mist. Let's see, in the Lutens you get that rasping dryness, you know, like the iris rhizomes that have been left out in the desert, whereas Iris Poudre, absolutely love Iris Poudre, and everything else from Malle says scents and smells. I don't blame you. I'm a huge fan of the brand as well, as everybody knows. So Iris Poudre is very much, I think, a homage to Chanel No. 5, in the sense that I'm guessing the idea was to take that aldehyde overdose concept, but link it to a different floral. So Chanel No. 5 is famously linked with rose jasmine ylang ylang, which makes it smell really lush and grand and sensuous and classically feminine. But I suppose Malle and Pierre Bourdon wanted to go for a slightly different effect here, so they chose Iris. And I like the way they currently describe this perfume on their website, because they talk about restrained passions. And there's something here about the aldehydes that feels like a suit of armor or a protective shell. And so you get really quite sweet resinous balsamic notes in the base. There's a lot going on in that base, but the iris and the aldehydes stop you from getting too close until they're ready to allow you to enter. And musks, I should say, sorry, huge role of musks being played here, and they link very interestingly with the aldehydes. Where I depart from the description on the Frederic Malle site is that they're now selling this very much as a feminine perfume. I think it talks about, I forget exactly what it said, but it's something about a woman in a very sharp suit, etc. And I think, but okay, Iris can smell like raw potatoes, says Yoshi. Yes, absolutely. I think it's that starchiness, isn't it? That chalkiness. But it's a fascinating smell. But Iris Poudre, I remember the first time I smelt it, I just thought, wow, I never thought that any other perfume could make me feel the way that No. 5 makes me feel. But this does. Very elegant and classy, says Nazik. Yes, absolutely. I have a hard time with Iris Poudre, says Eric, up close, but it is radiant to catch on my collar. I know what you mean. Those musks in there are pretty hard hitting, but I think it's because of them that you get the really beautiful, tremendous sillage. So that's the third one. By the way, these are not in order of preference, okay? Give me Iris Nazarena or give me death. Oh, and another one. I wonder if Iris Nazarena is on the list, says Hamlet 1. Why do you like Iris Nazarena then? So, because I need to make sure I've done 5 before we get to the half-hour mark, there is another one that we've already talked about, and it is the oldest one on this list. It's from 1906. You know where we're going with this. I have mentioned this perfume so many times. Ah, just my heart skips a beat each time I even think of this particular scent. It is, of course, Apres L'Ondee from Guerlain, composed by Jacques Guerlain, released in, as I say, 1906. Do you like Une Amourette, says Cynthia. I do, and you know, I actually considered including it on this list because it is a very, very, very unusual take. I felt bad in a way because the current Iris Supremo is considered to be Daniela Andrier of Givaudan, the perfumer from Givaudan. And yet, I don't have a single Daniela Andrier perfume in this list. Maybe it's because she spread herself a little bit too thin with Iris. But had I chosen one, I think I would have gone for Une Amourette because it's a fascinating way of presenting Iris in an animalic fashion. So if you haven't tried that, it's Une Amourette from État Libre d'Orange. I've reviewed it on the blog. Absolutely check it out. It's one of the most fascinating things that Daniela Andrea has made. No infusion d'iris then. No, see? No. So there you go. Perhaps controversial. So Apres L'Ondee, a few weeks ago, before I went into the summer the summer season hiatus, I was very, very fortunate to interview the Givaudan perfumer, master perfumer, Rodrigo Flores Roux. Do find that interview on the channel if you haven't already watched it. It was such a great interview. And I went through a list of some notes. And I said to Rodrigo, you know, what's the first perfume that comes to mind if you think of a classic rose? What's the first perfume that comes to mind if you think of a classic whatever? And I said Iris. And he actually, for which I'm so grateful to him, he said that he wasn't going to go for the obvious Chanel number 19 and that he would say Apres L'Ondee. It's not often considered to be an Iris perfume, and yet I don't understand why. Yes, obviously there's a lot of other stuff going on here. It isn't a solid note perfume at all. There's a very, very strong violet note. There's a very, very pronounced almondy note, which is actually what led to Jean-Claude Ellena then making L'Eau d'Hiver, because that's got that sort of woody almond note in it too. It's got the herbal notes that we very strongly associate with Guerlain from that period, from the early 20th century, and there you go. Denby is helping us out with the chemistry here. Well, maybe not so much the chemistry, saying Apres L'Ondee is ionones, anise, and almonds. Yes, absolutely. An anisic note, you know, a sort of fennelly kind of note. There's also a clove note, says Gavin. Yes, totally, you know. And as soon as you say it, all of these notes seem to rush to the fore. So yes, you get that kind of violet carnation feel. But, I think the thing that gives it that after the rain shower feel, the thing that makes it so beautifully tragic and melancholy, I would say, is the iris. And it's hard to say that Apres L'Ondee is an underrated perfume because, of course, it's one of the most lauded perfumes of all time. But as an iris perfume, we could say it's underrated. It doesn't even exist in this bottle anymore. As far as I'm aware, Guerlain have now presented it in the gendarme bottle, the so-called gendarme bottle, you know, the classic Mitsuko bottle. And I have no idea what the formulation is like for that bottle. It may well be the same as what it is in this one. And there's a bit of me that wants to try it and a bit of me that's also actually really, really freaked out about trying it. But I will have to. Certainly the Neema that comes in that bottle, I think is pretty good. So that's the fourth one. And obvious ones. Well, this is kind of an obvious one. So let's do the 5 obvious ones out first. Sometimes I just layer sandalwood, says Ashfaq, Orris resinoid, and labdanum. Orris gets more beautiful in their presence on my skin. Gosh, but wouldn't anything get more beautiful in the presence of sandalwood and labdanum? You must smell really amazing on those days when you don't do that. So this is a funny one to bring out, actually, because I don't really know what form this is available in. So anyway, here we go. So this is the original 2005. Am I right? 2005? Where are my notes? Yes, 2005. Olivier Polge, Dior Homme. But Dior Homme has gone through several facelifts over the years. But Dior assure us that the Iris version, the one that we all fell in love with, is now sold as Dior Homme Original. The silver stem. Thank you for noticing, Hussein. Thank you. The much treasured silver stem. the Dior assure us that this Iris version with the baked fruit note, you know, this the baked apple note, is currently being sold as Dior Homme Original, because of course the scent that now bears the Dior Homme name is nothing like this at all. And again, this is another one that, not that I've been to very many shops lately, this is another one where I think I need to sort of gird my loins and pluck up the courage to smell what is being touted as Dior Homme Original in a shop. I mean, it may well be available at, you know, Harrods or Selfridges or that kind of a boutique. But if you can get your hands on the 2005, why anybody would want to mess with this? I can only assume that they messed with it because it didn't do very well, and yet it seems to be a huge hit. I mean, high-profile advertising campaign after another. I always thought the Jamie Dornan campaigns were better than the Jude Law ones. The Jude Law ones were just trying a little bit too hard. I mean, I think Jamie Dornan is probably more effortlessly cool than Jude Law anyway. Although I quite rate Jude Law as an actor. Mind you, Jamie Dornan is actually... Have you seen... What's that ridiculously cheesy film that was released a little while ago with the two comedians? Someone and Bar go to Costa del Mar or something like that. He's the best thing in it. It's such a bonkers movie, but that is worth watching. Do you like it for a woman? I've heard it's feminine, says Cynthia. Absolutely would work on a woman. All I've seen are the Robert Pattinson Dior Homme commercials, says John. Yeah, see, again, they sort of had this trying too hard feel to them. Team Jude, Hamlet Wong. Okay, maybe they ran out of ingredients, says Jack. You never know. But this was the smell of the early 21st century metrosexual, you know, the time when, I mean, gender fluidity is obviously very much on people's minds at the moment, but I think there was a period in the late 90s and early 2000s when gender fluidity was having a moment. Maybe we had to have that moment before it actually became the more serious issue that it is now. I think gender fluidity in the late 90s was, I mean, I may be wrong, feel free to disagree, but I think maybe it was more about experimenting with different clothing styles, experimenting with different sorts of perfumes. Of course, now it is a much more profound issue. And maybe this was ahead of its time. But for those who haven't had a chance to smell it, there is this fantastic iris note, a very, very subtle but very marked use of aldehydes at the top, an iris note that is linked with carrot, again at the top, and this fantastic feel of vanilla and cinnamon and baked apples, baked pears, and that contrast between the sweetness and the texture, that kind of American Psycho metrosexuality. Maybe not, Jack. How about we say no to that one? That pulpy, the pulpiness of pears and apples is somehow very much a feature of this. And I mean, I am being good with it. As you can see, I'm not overusing it, but I do enjoy using it. And every single time I do, I just love how long it lasts. And yeah, absolute classic. I think one of the best scents of the 21st century. Real crowning achievement for Olivier Polge. And it's just a shame that it wasn't able to stick around. And in every single form, it seemed to work well. You know, the deodorant was really good. The shower gel was really good. The aftershave balm was really good. It was just a fantastic piece of work all the way through. Do you like Dior Homme Parfum, says John? I did seem to like it. The flanker that I really enjoyed, and again, we've said this before, I thought the intense version was really good. And then I thought the first sport version, which had the ginger note, was just superb. And then every single sport version after that was not just not very good, but it was actually really diabolically awful. I mean, some of them were just evil. Anyway, we have done 5 and we've only just gone over the half-an-hour mark, so we're doing okay. But this is probably a good time to pause for a moment and say that you are watching episode 195 of Love at First Scent, coming back after the season hiatus, and we are looking at my top 10 best Iris perfumes. We did a +1 at the beginning, and please keep the comments and the questions coming. So the ones that are remaining now, the 5 that I've got in front of me, are arguably a little bit less obvious, but I don't think you'll be surprised to see most of them here. Let's go with the one that's already been mentioned because a few people said this, it better be here. And I'm just looking at the list whether this is going to be the most recent one. No, this the one I'm about to show you is 2013, but I've got two from 2017 as it happens. I should also give a shout out to the Iris Pallida from L'Artisan Parfumeur, which was made by Anne Flippo, the limited edition one. I'm very fortunate to have a bottle of that as well. Do you remember when L'Artisan actually presented those limited edition perfumes in little wooden caskets? That's a really good one, but it's not on this list because it's pretty much impossible to get now. But if you are able to find the Iris Pallida, that's a great one. My brother's really, really fond of that. But let's go 2013 from Aedes de Venustas, Iris Nazarena, by Ralph Schwieger, one of my favorite perfumers, but he doesn't get enough love out there, I think, in the fragrance world. I mean, he's very, very highly respected in the industry. He made Lipstick Rose, of course, for Frederic Malle. He made Afternoon of a Fawn for État Libre d'Orange, and also Fils de Dieu for État Libre as well. Really, really great perfumer, and a perfumer whose sense of humor, I think, comes through in his work. This one is one of his sort of more serious ones. You will find lots of good reports on the net about the variety of iris that this was inspired by, but this is this is so special. This is such a fantastic piece of work. Ralph Schwieger made Christopher Street, says An India. That is amazing and sadly underrated. I haven't even tried it. I should check it out. He's a really, really great perfumer, really fantastic. This scent has the most beautiful texture, says Hussein. Yes, I know what you mean. I remember when I first smelt it, and then I was thinking about how to write about it. It just struck me about how this perfume really gave me a sense of an iris growing. There's something about how it seems to unfurl on your skin. And okay, you know, iris doesn't have a scent. Can't believe this brand has seemingly gone bust, says Denby. They had a really strong line. Have they? I didn't even know. I have no idea whether the boutique is still functioning. I hope they haven't, because I don't think there's a single dud in the or there wasn't in that line. I mean, I liked some more than others, but that's pretty shocking if they have gone under. They were very expensive, or they are very expensive, I should say. I need to check it out because that's very, very sad if they've gone. Very sad. Perfumer plus sense of humor is genius in my book, says Lynn. So here you've got the chalkiness that you would hope for from iris. You've got that kind of rooty quality, that sort of bulbous quality. The line is out of stock everywhere for the past 2 years, says Denby. I had no idea. I genuinely had no idea. I will try to see if I can find something out. But you also get a very, very marked woodiness. You get a sense of this really being grounded in the earth, and very, very dry, parched earth, and sort of struggling to come out of this cracked earth and grow. There's a lot of defiance in this perfume. So, you know, in number 19, you've got seriousness in Iris Poudre, you've got vintage elegance in Apres L'Ondee, you've got tragedy in Iris Silver Mist. I don't know what I suppose you've got romantic sorrow. Here you've got defiance, you've got determination, and it's not hard to make associations between flowers and determination and defiance, because year after year they just emerge seemingly out of nothing in a very, very defiant way. You know, the earth is cold. What was the T.S. Eliot line? April is the cruelest month. And it's such a fantastic line because there is this real sense of the pain somehow that flowers and plants have to go through in order to break through the shackles of winter and emerge into spring and summer in their full glory. Sylvia says, I heard they had an argument with the distributor and that's why it's out of stock. No idea. No idea. But But I will try to find out. I will try to find out. They're definitely hard to come by now, says Andrew. Got my Iris Nazarena from a shop in Italy last year. I think Shy Mimosa stocks them in the UK. Something for me to find out. But it's such a shame if this is gone though, because it means I need to treasure my bottle even more. So yes, this is Iris as strength. Which I guess, ties in with the sort of suit of armor analogy that I was talking about before as well. So that's number 6. Persolaise, you need to get a move on because you've still got to do 4 and you've only got 20 minutes. I see a lot of you talking about Kansas. You're really selling Kansas to me. I've never been to the US, but maybe I'm going to give Kansas a miss. Anyway, with 4 left... okay, let's do the one for which I don't have a full bottle so that we get that one out of the way. Keith says, hello, by the way, Iris is somewhat challenging to me. When it smells like makeup lipstick, I find it hard to wear. It does have that quality, but that's because of association. When it's floral, rooty, earthy, woody, and a bit sweet, I love it. Fair enough. Gunmetal, I tried this uber expensive Iris Galia, $400 for 30 mils from Ensarud, supposedly containing Iris Absolute with 30% irones, and it smelled very plummy and purple. Okay, right, let's do this from one of my favorite newish brands of recent years. This is from 2017. The brand is Les Indemodables. I interviewed the founders of the brand a few months ago here on the channel as well, so you will find that interview here. Somebody's saying, I'm crossing fingers you have one Iris from Celine. I haven't tried any of those Celine perfumes yet. Everybody keeps telling me I should. I have no idea how to get hold of the samples. This is Iris Perle, or Iris Perle, which I believe is one of the ones made by Antoine Lee, but I could be mistaken. With so many of these Les Indemodables perfumes, for me, it was love at first sniff. Maury says, you don't believe how excited I am. Finally made it to a live, and also Iris is one of my favorite notes. Well, you're very, very welcome. Stick around for the last few minutes. And again, a completely different presentation of Iris. So fascinating because it is recognizably Iris, and yet I completely get this idea of it being pearlescent. So this is shiny Iris, okay? I'm just trying to think now. I've got descriptors for all of them. I need to get descriptors for the last 3 as well. This is luminous, brilliant, gleaming Iris, which ties in with the idea of the pearl, I suppose. So here you have got the note being presented in a much sweeter way, but it's green sweet. So whereas Dior Homme, Dior Homme is so good as well. Oh, they're all so amazing. Whereas Dior Homme, of course, has got that fruity sweetness, that pulpy, appley sweetness. This is green and grassy sweet. And now I'm smelling it now. It almost feels as though it's coming to me via Guerlain's Herba Fresca and Apres L'Ondee. Where's my Apres L'Ondee blotter? Let's try that again. Yeah, it's definitely I thought of it as being quite so floral, but there's some kind of a violet feel to it here. Maybe a clovey note, but it's just fantastic. If you have not tried the Les Indemodables line, I know that as a result of the video that I did on them, a lot of you went and tried to find their sample sets either directly through their site or through Lucky Scent. If you haven't tried them, somebody left a comment here the other day actually saying that they think that it is the best sample set they have ever purchased. And, I'm not on commission or anything, so I don't get a percentage. I can hand on heart recommend that sample set to you because they're just fantastic pieces of work from Les Indemodables. I think that brand is going to be the Frederic Malle of the future. And Iris Perle is just, again, just an example of the attention to detail that goes into their work and the quality of the materials they use. Olfactophile says, I agree. Oh, your comment's there, but not here. So when is your comment? The sample set is amazing, and I love 4 of them. Sorry, what's the brand? Missed the name, says an India. It's probably my French being rubbish. It's Les Indemodables. I've got the pouch here that I got the... So can you see that? It'll all be in the video description below. The Indemodables, okay? So as in they will never go out of mode. They will never go out of fashion. They will always be a la mode. Oh, somebody talking about bottles. So let's label this one. Ah, this is, I'm just rediscovering how much I love this one again, actually. So good. Okay. And let's move on. Well, let's move on to one that was mentioned, actually. I'm very, very pleased that I've got this bottle. I think this has had an outing on Love at First Scent before. This is Iris from Hermes, and I'm very, very pleased that I've still got this bottle, that I managed to get this bottle. It was found in a funny little shop in Venice a few years ago, because you can see there that all it's got on the ingredients list is alcohol, perfume, water. So it's probably full of really, really nasty things, and I shouldn't be... the Venice bottle, says Ashfaq. And I shouldn't be spraying it on my skin, but I'll spray it on a blotter now. Now, Iris is quite a divisive one. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people find it screechy and abrasive and kind of unforgiving. I remember Luca Turin hated it. Oh, was he one of the ones who didn't like it? Okay, interesting. I wonder what it was that he didn't like about it. But no, I see it really, really works for me as a potatoes gone ordinary was Luca Turin's quote. But is that a bad thing? I don't know. You know, go back to the one that we started with, and we talked about Chanel number 19 and people complaining that it's cold, and I sort of say to me, it's not cold, it's formal, it's austere. Iris is the one that to me feels as though it's iris coming through liquid nitrogen. But I think it's fantastic, and I love the fact that they went for this color bottle, because obviously, okay, it kind of ties in with that. Pretty good match, actually, isn't it? But there's something cold about that color as well, and the fact that they went for this frosted bottle. I would imagine it isn't in this bottle anymore, is it? It's probably just in a see-through bottle, with the same as all of the other ones, with just the name on the front. And it's got that mineralic, incensey quality that is a hallmark of Jacobetti's work. She loves incense as a note, and she seems to love a particularly flinty feeling incense. It's always incense that's, to me, feels like it's being filtered through flint and through steam. Imagine Iris in extract form, says Ashfaq. Now that would be hard to imagine, but it's great, and it's got one of those, you know, sort of cutting through the heat type attributes. I've been through bottles of it, says Jeanne. Gorgeous. Yeah, see, I'm glad you agree. It's almost, you know, smelling it now, it's almost like if you had to make an iris cologne, you know, something that is cold, light, frozen. Ooh, try and pick up the blotter without wrecking everything, Persolaise. No, I rate it very, very highly, and I love the carrotiness of it, because again, that's another thing that Jacobetti likes. Very, very rooty. Absolutely. It's you can see why it's divisive, because it's quite an uncompromising iris. And oh god, I've dropped it again. Oh, out of practice with the videos. No, if you I must try the current iteration. I must try the current iteration. Philip agrees that it's a wonderful fragrance. Okay, we're down to two. We're down to two. This next one, I reckon probably nobody is going to predict that I've got this one here, or nobody would have predicted. And it is one of the ones where, you know, it sort of kept dropping off the top 10, coming back, where I thought, okay, should I include it? Should I not? Should I include it? So, for instance, another one of the ones that was hovering around the top 10 was La Pausa from Chanel, which is a really, really great iris. That's not on the list. I considered Traversée du Bosphore from L'Artisan Parfumeur. That's a very, very interesting take on iris, because it's a really full-on gourmand iris with that kind of biting tulip note and Turkish delight. Really, really beautiful piece of work. But I like the fact that this next one is the spiciest of the irises here. Can we guess? Is it Cuir Canage? No. I'll give you 30 seconds to guess. I will tell you that it's from 2017. I will tell you that I haven't been able to find out who the perfumer is. And I'll tell you that the name is 2 words, and it's the first word is iris, and then the second word is perhaps a word that you would associate with the color green, although this is hard. This is hard. So let me give you 20 more seconds to see what comes up. Tom Ford, then. No, it's not a Tom Ford. It's not a Tom Ford. 15 seconds. Iris Verde, says Hamlet Wong. Iris Cendre, good guesses, but no. Although it starts with a C. Iris Ganache, oh, see, I wish. Iris Ganache I love, but because that's really long gone and discontinued, I haven't included that, but I love Iris Ganache. I really don't think you're going to get this one. It's from Armani Prive, and it's Iris Celadon. Again, you know, we've talked about Iris Frog. Somebody needs to make Iris Frog. Iris Grenouille, right? That would be really good, actually. I've done several videos on the Armani Privé line over the years because for some reason it just doesn't get as much attention as it deserves. I mean, yes, okay, there are a few perfumes in the Armani Privé line that maybe don't justify the price tag, but also a lot of them are really, really great. And I rate Iris Celadon as one of the good ones. My one thing is that I just wish it lasted a little bit longer. Armani Privé is really underrated, says Hussein. I know, Bois d'Encens is beautiful. I mean, isn't it? Isn't that just like one of the best incense perfumes? Let's do a little bit of a reshuffle here. Now this, see, as soon as I spray it, it's a fantastic link between cool spices, so things like cardamom and iris. Another scent that did the spicy iris thing so well was Opus 5 from Amouage. Do check that one out. But this is, it's so unusual because it's very, very recognizably iris. So again, you get that earthiness, the rootiness, the carrotiness, and yet there's this spice souk in front of it. And mainly cardamom, but not just. I mean, I'm getting things like cloves again. I'm maybe even getting things like nutmeg, perhaps a touch of cinnamon. Nice use of musks. And also, I didn't actually think of this until I saw the notes list earlier, but there's a kind of bitter chocolate feel to it as well. It's really unusual. It's really unusual. I don't think I've read a single review of it out there from the the major critics, whatever we want to call them, the more respected critics. I haven't even been able to find who the perfumer is. For a lot of the Armani Privé line, the perfumers have been named, but not this one for some reason. The Iris Francesca Bianchi Under My Skin is a love at first smell, says Zorel. Yeah, well, Francesca's work is really, really good. What's your favorite from the group, says Hamlet Wong. Oh, that's a tough question. That's a tough question. Let me get to number 10 as well, and then maybe we can talk about it. Like well, actually, it is a tough question. It isn't, because my favorite perfume out of all of this lot is Apres L'Ondee. So in that sense, it's quite an easy pick. But if I wanted an iris, like if I just wanted the iris fix, it would probably have to be Iris Silver Mist, I think. But do check out Iris Celadon. It definitely, see, the bitter chocolate, the cocoa thing is coming through as well, and that works so well with the iris. Woefully underrated. I will inform the Armani people. An Armani price show, or a Privé, you mean an Armani? There was an Armani Privé a video a while ago, and even not that long ago when they did their new Cypress, which I wasn't massively crazy about, but it was fine. So we are down to number 10. And again, I think that this is probably one that you will be surprised to see here, because it's not really considered to be an iris perfume, but I think iris is an extremely important component in it. And this is the meditative iris. This is the transformative iris. So, which is it? We need an iris scent for men from Creed. We don't need anything from Creed. I thought we could get through a whole video without mentioning them. Anyway, this is, you will know straight away by looking at this bottle that it's from Neela Vermeire Creations, but you may not know which one it is. It's Ashoka, okay? Made by Bertrand Duchaufour. All of the brand's perfumes so far are from Duchaufour. This one was released in, he checks his notes quickly, in 2013. Gosh, so it's 8 years old. Who would have thought? if ever I do presentations on the narrative power of perfume, this idea that perfume can tell a story. Ashoka is one of the ones that I like to use as an example. Oh, I think the perfumer for Iris Celadon is Marie Salamania. Says, right, let me test my knowledge of the alphabet. Is it Mehdi? Mehdi, I'm not going to be able to read your surname. Armaran? Yes. There you go. Thank you very much. The iris in Ashoka sort of goes desiccated coconutty to me, says Gavin. Yeah, possibly. Now, this was inspired by the quasi-mythical figure of Ashoka, who went from being a violent, successful warrior to a much more meditative, contemplative personality. And that journey is very, very beautifully told, illustrated in an olfactory sense in the perfume. And I think Iris, see, I'm totally getting the Iris now, even though, as with any Neela Vermeire perfume, there is always a lot of stuff going on. So you get that gorgeous sandal note coming through, you get a kind of green figginess coming through, which is I think what symbolizes the aggressiveness, the bite at the beginning. You get an incense note coming through. So there is a lot happening here. But the iris is a very, very important component of it. And when I wear it, I enjoy the iris. Gavin says he was known for being a terrible torturer of people. Yeah, not the nicest guy at the beginning of his life, worse than Vlad the Impaler. But I think the whole point of his story is that he saw the light and decided that he needed to change his ways. Gunmetal says, I love Ashoka's top, but the dry down was too scratchy for me, like some kind of screechy milky note. Interesting. Denby says, I thought you'd choose Nirral. I don't get too much iris in Ashoka, more coconut fig. I do think Ashoka is a better composition overall than Nirral, though. Fair enough. And John says, I've heard Creed owns their own ocean. Where they collect the perfect ambergris. You win the prize. If I could send you the prize for the best comment of the day. Yes, they probably do own their own. Actually, they probably own their own whales, right? And they go tickling their throats going, be sick, little whale, be sick. No, sorry. Is that iris stock from your garden, says Ashfaq. Yes, this was picked. Just a little, I'm sorry. I'm just picturing the Creed people going, I just need to go and do the whale vomit thing today. Here we are talking about Ashoka and you brought the tone down. Never mind. At least you made me laugh. Thank you very much. Whoever, all of you who are talking about coconut note, fig note, etc., you're absolutely right. All of those things are here in Ashoka. But to me, it's the iris that gives it its regal quality, its seriousness. They get the whale vomit by spraying Aventus. You're naughty, and I'm encouraging you. I'm not, you need to stop, but keep going. Anyway, on that note, you pleased with this? You got the C word in there, you got the A word in there. Thank you very much for tuning in to this full hour. As I said, I'm not fully out of summer hibernation yet, but I kind of am, so hopefully I will be with you back soon with some new releases. For instance, I've got the 2 new Aqua Allegorias from Guerlain, obviously, and I'm planning to do a very special video on the extraits that are currently available from Dior. I did one a little while ago on the Chanel extraits, and that went down very well. A lot of people were interested in those, so I thought it might be interesting as well to look at the extraits that are currently sold by Dior. Not too many of them, sadly, but the ones that I've smelt so far are well worth shouting about in the videos. So stay tuned to social media for details of when the next videos will be coming. Dziękuję, Persolaise, says Denby. Thank you so much to all of you for watching, for being such good company as always. Stay safe, be good. I will see you soon. Bye now.